So you need to be moving 12, man. The orders off the rack coming up to the hood. I'm telling you, man. Listen to me the fuck out of here. You need to be moving 12, man. 12, man. The orders off the rack coming up to the hood. I'm telling you. So you need to be moving 12, man. The rack coming up to the hood. Alright? So before I give you your number, what might just happen? Any further questions? Yeah?
All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. I am your curator of the Fatherhood Think Tank, Dr. Ron, the mentor, educator, therapist, and Black father. I know sometimes people may even say this, like, share, subscribe. Normally when we come on at 7 o'clock, I better to stop doing this, but come on at 7, then I give a little bit of time for people to get on and have everybody join into the show, and also share out to everywhere. So just be patient. If you come on right at 7, just stay around. Don't run off so fast and say, I don't know what's going on, um, uh, or anything like that. But we will be having a nice conversation tonight. 90 minutes of fathers talking about topics that affects us as men, as fathers, and our families and our communities. Let me just start tonight off with just recognizing our hosts. I mean, not our hosts, but our sponsors. First sponsor is the Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fort Lauderdale chapter. Chartered in 1954, has been a long-standing sponsor of this Fatherhood Think Tank. Actually, it was through this initiative that the think tank even kind of got started with the fellowship and the support of those brothers. Also, our main sponsor is JAG, attorney at law, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. If you're looking for an attorney in those areas, you can reach out to JAG, attorney at law. That's Johnny A. Gaspar, Esquire. His email is Gaspard at jag1law.com. Phone number is 305-827-8087 if you're trying to get in touch and looking for a lawyer to handle some of your legal issues. And he is a proud sponsor of and also a member of the Fatherhood Think Tank. Not just a sponsor, he's a member. Let me go ahead and let the fathers who are here tonight, the faithful guys who come every night. And I had to tell somebody this the other day, and I'm going to say, this is a lot more than just us coming on here for a show. And I had to explain this to somebody. Somebody asked me, hey, being a therapist, when do you go to therapy? They say, hey, when do you go to therapy? Like, what, when do you have? I told them for years I went to supervision, but I don't need to go to therapy. I'm not having an exact problem. But sometimes you can go to therapeutic groups, and the Fatherhood Think Tank is that for me. I think it has been that for a lot of fathers who have participated, as an aspect of support and to talk about it. So I welcome people to come and get this energizing, refreshing time to spend with fathers and talk about issues that affect us. With that being said, let me go ahead and shoot over to our fathers who are here tonight and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into our topic of tonight. The topic is Men Are Men.
Yeah, go ahead, my brother.
Go ahead, T. I'm waiting on you.
Oh, you're very kind.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Tenney. I am in transition to be a single dad. I have 3 wonderful adult children. ranging in ages from 30 to 37. I have a granddaughter and one on the way.
Awesome. And definitely always it's a pleasure to have you here, Tinny. Um, and always just my spirit to see you here every time you and any one of you guys. It encourages me to go in. I don't think I can reach those heights and depths without you. But my name is good evening, gentlemen. My name is Nine Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 3 young women, 4 young men, one granddaughter, and a grandson. As a matter of fact, my granddaughter's birthday is tomorrow. And so I got to make sure I send a good birthday greetings and all the other stuff. And you definitely better send a few dollars. You want to be a real papa. So I'm just really looking forward to that and tonight's conversation. So again, thank you for having me here.
Well, thank you for both of you guys. Thank you for your, for always not being, oh, look at that. Here's Dr. Gaines telling me that he needs the link. Let me get that over to him. At first, I can't ever go to a moment and not, think about you guys and think of, the idea of, because probably if you guys didn't come, I would probably just sit here and I don't know what I would do. It's not really a think tank with one person. Not a think tank. You can't really think and you can't really tank anything. But this topic, this was a topic that was a while back. We had gotten so many things. And you guys introduced this topic, and it was interesting because when he shared the picture for the topic, that's really what kind of sparked me as we got back into a point where we are now. Say, let me get out here and get this topic back up because I think it's a very important topic. Like men are men, and in the society we live in today, we see that there are these archetypes of men. Like there's so many different men, and 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 I'm gonna pull that video. I'll pull that picture up in a minute. In that picture, they have so many different types of men. But the real man who is giving the presentation, basically is pointing out that hey, all men are men. While you doing that, I'll let Dr. Gaines introduce himself, and then I'll get back to it. Hey, good night, Dr. Gaines. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Always good to be here, my brother. You've already introduced me. I'm Frank Gaines, Dr. Frank Gaines. My most important job right now is a grandfather. I have 5 grandchildren and another one that is due in January. And I have 4 children. So, again, my most important role is being a grandfather. That's all I got right now, brother.
Okay, thank you. Well, I mean, I didn't want you to have too much. I mean, we was just going through the topic tonight. The topic is men are men. And it's funny because when we think about the think tank and people coming, there are men of all different types of lifestyles, demographics, ways of life. But the thing that I found so important is the one thing we have in common, hopefully, is that we're all men, right? And then secondly, then we are all fathers. And sometimes we have these cross area things like being husbands, being fathers of children. Yeah, I don't like to use the word baby daddy, but being a father of the children. Sometimes being divorced, sometimes being remarried, sometimes being engaged. We have all these components, but I think the biggest part is that we fall into this role of being these men who are fathers. And I when I thought about that is I want to ask each of you guys, and this is going to take a little soul searching, not soul searching, but maybe just some thoughts about what have you always thought of what kind of man you was? Like, when we think about men, who men are, like, like, so I hear this all the time. I'm an alpha man, and all these kind of different scenarios um, that people have. So I just wanted to even throw that question out to fathers. And if people are watching the show and you want to type in the type of man that you are, so we can also hear that, definitely. I see you watching on Facebook and on YouTube. Just type in, hey, what kind of, and I'll read it off and get that conversation going. So fathers in the room, what type of man are you? What type of man do you feel that you are, if you representing?
I think maybe we need to get to the so if you say men are men, maybe we need to define what a man is before we can go to the characteristics of it. You know?
No, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm asking you, as the individual,
right?
What do you define yourself as? So then, so we can, because I think sometimes making a definition of what a man is can be subjective, and so I wanted us to be able to give examples of what men, as men that we are talking, and we're going to talk about what we believe men are and not are how they should be or whatever. That we gave that very clear option of what kind of man we are, what we are as a man, who we are as a man, what does it mean as an individual who's going to talk about men. Because sometimes what will happen is, and I see this often, people will talk about what men should be, how men are, and then people will be like, well, what kind of man are you? I mean, we don't have a very clear, we don't have it clear, but you have a lot of opinions about what kind of men are, what men do, or whatever. And I think that I wanted us to be transparent in that part before we got into what we think men or how we think men should operate in that capacity.
No, I was just defining the topic because the topic says men are men, and so I guess the next obvious question would be, what is a man? You understand? And then once we could define what a man is without characteristics, I'm like, okay, what is a man? I mean, the direct, indefinite definition of a man. What makes you a man? And what definition actually constitute being a man? And then we can go into the characteristics of it. But right now, because right now we're getting ready to talk about the characteristics, but we haven't really talked about what the definition is of a man in order to break off into the characteristics of a man. And so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, are we going to say that we're going to define a man as an adult male? Would that be
right? That's what I did. That's exactly what I didn't want us to do. I wanted us to define men through ourselves. What do we find as the man that we consider we are? How are we defining men as ourselves? I can't define. Listen, I have a strong feeling that that sometimes people will say, "Oh, this is what a man is," but we don't know it. I mean, that's what our opinion is. I don't know what this man is or what he's not. For example, okay, so I guess the best example is, for me, what I define first and foremost as a man, being me representing as a man, is first that I am, first and foremost, I believe in a higher power. I believe in that, and it leads all that what I do. Now, I don't have to define what that higher power is for anybody, but for me, it leads me, and a lot of what it leads me to be is a servant leader. So, as being a servant leader, and how I represent that as being a man, is that I am at servants. I lead through my service to whoever I'm around. So, as with a woman, I'll be a leader to that woman, but I also will serve to her. To my children, I hope to be a leader that serves to them. To my community, be able to be a person that leads but also serves to them. And so for me, that's what I define myself when I say I'm a man, because I will lead and I will do what needs to be done, but not for myself. I will do it for what's the best of our community, for my family, for my people, and the people that I'm involved with. Even sometimes for people that are even a part of me, not even And that's it, because sometimes a man has to do things that he doesn't even want to have to do. That is better of his calling of what he should be doing as a man. So
No,
that's how.
I got you. And listen, I'm not, you know me, I'm just gonna just go like where we need to go with it. Like, well, at least where I feel we need to go with it. Because I mean, when you have stereotypes out there, it's a very popular term to challenge a man's creation, existence as a man by using the term a real man. You understand? So I'm like, he's a real man, whether you don't think he is or not. Good, bad, indifferent, poor, rich, whatever. He's a real man regardless, because God created him to be a man. He fits all the biological and the biological chromosome scientific makeup of being a man, particularly an adult male. Now, when we get into the characteristics, because sometimes we're confused the two. I'm like, just as sure as he was born a man, he's a man. But when we get into the characteristics, I think sometimes we skew and confuse the characteristics with the very creation of being a man. And so there's the characteristics of men, and then there's the creation of actually being a man. And so that's all I'm saying. I don't never want to confuse the two. And so when people challenge, oh, you're a real man, oh, he's a man regardless, whether you think he's real or not. He was created a man, so that makes him a real man. Now, what characteristics is he, whether he's a good man or a bad man, or you understand, a nice man or a mean man, that's the difference. And I don't want to confuse it where people like stray away from what it actually means to be a man first by creation before we actually veer off into the characteristics of a man.
I will say, I mean, there's such wide parameters on that question, you know, in terms of what kind of a man am I. I think, you know, for me, it boils down to, and I think it boils down for all of us, where does our validation come from? Now, we could sit back and say, well, no, I might need validation from no one or nothing, but there is a validation, you know, of all of us. You know, where does our validation come from? What really moves us? That determines really who you are as a man. Now, me, yeah, I'm a family man. Absolutely. You know, my direct and indirect is, you know, there's 14, like I said, 4 kids, 5 grandkids, you know, 2 son-in-laws and a daughter-in-law. They are direct to me. I am involved and engaged with them. And my wife, of course. I was, you know, I'm a little bit older than most of you. Maybe I'm a little bit older than most of you. So I've been around a while. I was born, you know, prior to the civil rights movement. I grew up during that time. You know, I was born in Newark, New Jersey. And, you know, I was very close to that movement. So that has bred me to be passive aggressive from the standpoint that I don't bother anybody, but I don't want anybody to bother me. I think that, and I got to be very careful about what I say here. I walk a fine line between arrogance and confidence. I walk it boldly. It's sometimes people misread that, but you know, that's their prerogative. I believe that anywhere that I am is better off because I'm there. And I think that any man that doesn't believe that, he needs to get away from where he is. Okay. So I walk that line. You know, it's a fine line. I consider myself humble because I hold so much back, you know, because I do try to, you know, I'm a strong believer in servant leadership. And, you know, I try to really understand the perspective of others. I try to look at life through what other people think and try to understand how they see it because I've experienced so much. But, you know, you get to a certain age and, you know, the wisdom of experience, you want to stop, you know, it's like when you raise a child, you want to stop them from making mistakes. You don't let the baby fall. And so, you know, for me, you know, I try to, you know, as a man, I try to utilize that in my daily walk. But it's very difficult because we live in a society now where we're exposed to so much on social media, so much that is really truly not, uh, you know, intellectually good for us. That in social media that is not research based drives so much of what we think, act, say, and do. So you see that, and for me, trying to help young folk understand, young men, because listen, I'm raising men still. I got a 35-year-old son and a 44-year-old son, and I'm very close ties to them. So again, I'm one of others. I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60. So, I've seen some things, I've done some things, I've made some mistakes. And so as a man, for me, it's really not, I've got all the trappings of, success, great family, live in a nice house, drive a nice car. Yeah, it's all wonderful. But don't let that confuse you. My deepest concern is first and foremost for my family, and then my desire for others to do better, which is why I'm a part of what we do here. So, and I think that who I am as a man, many things, many different environments, many people that draw on me, those that choose to and those that don't, I don't treat them any differently. It's a complicated question.
I would agree and say that it is a very complicated question because there is such a bandwidth of personalities, if you will, characteristics that every man is gifted with by their creator. And I think it's up to that gift of life for us to be able to determine how to operate within that bandwidth that God has given us, and to determine what He's deposited in each man, how to function in society that is going to eventually define, who they are as a man. For Ed Tenney, I don't know. I consider myself maybe the strong silent type. I'm not necessarily extremely talkative, and but at the same time, I feel like if I do have something to say, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm also in an older stage of life, and I think that in and of itself is a characteristic that's a part of that bandwidth. I'm finding myself just being less tolerant for bullshit. I don't know, right? I think right now my thing is, just recognizing bullshit and just, not. Can I say that on air?
Yeah.
I didn't already say it.
It's okay.
A little bit late.
It's a little bit late. You got to add the
emphasis on tank.
This is not G-rated. This is not G-rated.
Matter of fact, I found out that you can use profanity type words. I mean, it's not profanity, but you can use expressive type words. We're not going to get.
Profane. As long as
I'll
it's not
say BS.
Disrespectful. As long as it's not disrespectful.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like in that stage. But what I will say with regards to Ed Tenney's manhood, I'm kind of with both you two doctors, Frank and Ron, from the perspective of servant leadership. And I think you have to be there's a sacrifice that goes with that servant leadership type of arena. You make sacrifices, and Dr. Frank, you alluded to it, that you ride a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and it's not like you're dimming your light for the sake of others. It sounds like if you need to shine it to let somebody know this is who I am and where I'm coming from, boom, you'll do that. So I'm kind of like in that stage, and I'm also in a constant growth stage. I never allow myself to be the smartest man in the room. I always appreciate other people's perspective, even if I don't agree with it. There's probably something that I can learn from a different perspective, even if I don't, necessarily agree with it. So my approach to manhood is always being in a growth stage, always being receptive to learning something new, being taught, so that I can then, chew on it, marinate it, figure out, what I want to take in, what I want to dish out, throw away, and allow God to mold me in my way. Because I felt like my parents, they did the best they could, but now it's up to me to determine, how I choose to represent myself as a man amongst this bandwidth of, different characteristics. So,
It's interesting you say that. The comment that stuck out, you said, my parents did the best they could. You and I are old enough to understand that we are products of parents who came from an extremely hard time in American history. And I'm not going to give you a history lesson, but our parents really truly did the best they could under the circumstances. The opportunities that we have as men and as parents didn't exist for our parents. Our parents came from backwater places, from nothing. I'm one generation from an outhouse. You understand? And so, for the strides that, in spite of what, I may see as a flaw in my parent, I think the same thing should apply for our kids. In spite of the flaws that I may want to point out in my father, I got to look at where he came from, what he endured, what he overcame, the position he put me in, and the examples and non-examples, because we learn from everything. We choose, we got to make choices. The examples and non-examples are what shaped us. So don't denigrate what, was not right about the parenting that we had to deal with. Understand the time that we live in, and these are not the same as what we live in right now. The opportunities that exist for us are limitless. And I guess that's what makes my convictions so strong as I deal with people, who haven't had the same experience. I want people to be able to have drawn on these experiences I had, but we're not all receptive. I mean, this program allows us a great platform to do just that, because we get to say some things and do some things in a light that people who are looking in wouldn't get to see. You wouldn't get to see on a day-to-day basis, because they're sitting back, they're listening, and we get the opportunity to touch their lives, beyond this platform. It helps create. I think it creates truly a captive audience that can really benefit. That doesn't mean we're preachers or anything. No, but if we can get we want people to sit back and listen and try and extrapolate from this what they will, and really touch them and help shape them in some way. So I applaud everybody that tunes in here. I truly take something away from it myself. So I hope that the people that are tuning in, be it one or many, really are taking advantage of this, because our program's expanding, as Brother Osborne and the rest of you know. We got some things ahead that really we expect to make a difference.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Definitely being my elders and everything. I think you guys are awesome. I always have to start that way when I get ready to say everything else I get ready to say, we can just keep everything rolling. But let me give a clear-cut example of who I am as a man. I think I'm a godly man, right? I can emphatically say that. Because I'm a godly man, it comes with a price, right? So when you guys say there's nothing wrong with being a servant leader, I won't consider myself a servant leader. If I had to describe my characteristics as a godly man, I truly and emphatically believe in positive aggression, right? And so being a positive, aggressive man that I am, I couldn't allow somebody to take a man's positive aggression and misconstrue it or manipulate it as some type of toxic masculinity, because a man stands firm in who he is and what he says. And so I'm unapologetically a man, and particularly I'm unapologetically a good man, but most importantly, I'm unapologetically a godly man. Now, again, being that as it may, I'm thoroughly convinced I'm not a leader because I ask God to help people. So that don't bother me one bit. I'm one hell of a follower, which is an oxymoron around being a godly man, but just to get the point across. I'm one hell of a follower, and it's very important to me to be one hell of a follower, because I think I put the same demand on myself being a follower as I would put on you being a leader. Which, simply put, most of me and my leaders never got along at all. Doesn't bother me one bit, because I'm not there for that. I don't care about the personality. I divorce myself from your personality the minute I meet you. Only thing that matters to me is your purpose. That's what I'm married to. I'm always going to be married to your purpose. I'm going to always divorce your personality. Anytime we get into a disagreement, that's an automatic divorce from your personality, because I don't care about that. What I do care about is the very purpose you exist for. I would say the majority of my leaders, my spiritual leader and everything, we don't get along. I mean, if I have a disagreement, they would know about it right away. I'm not pulling you aside. If you said something I disagree with publicly, you're going to get that disagreement publicly. I don't believe in all that pulling to the side, because I'm not going to keep your misinformation private. You don't put that out to different people, and you have a certain accountability to correct that. And if I'm going to pull you to the side and let you correct it in private, but you never correct it in public, you still got people infected by it. And so I still believe in strict accountability as a follower from my leaders, which simply means I'm going to expect from you what I'm willing and ready to give to you, and probably already given to you. You don't get to BS my service, since we're going to talk about service leaders. And so I've seen that. I've watched a lot of leaders BS the service of some great followers. I strongly believe in, out of all the forefathers of this country, the one who stuck out to me, I identified with the most, was not a leader at all. That's the strange part about it. Out of all the forefathers of this country, I didn't identify and never wanted to be a George Washington. I always identified with Benjamin Franklin. That's the one who sticks out to me the most, who was never the president, but you knew he was in the room. That's me. That's Lionel. Don't matter where I'm at and what level I'm on, you would know I was in that room, just, and not because I'm loud and maybe a little brazen, in the case may be, because I said, you can't love Muhammad Ali and hate me. You understand? And I mean that emphatically. So I'm like, I'm like, when you can't see Muhammad Ali's spirit in me. You love Muhammad Ali, but you hate me. You understand? And I run into that a lot. So I'm like, well, what kind of leaders are you searching for? Or even, are you searching for leaders that's going to be just as effective as you or more effective? You understand? Because if you're looking for leadership that's going to agree with you, now I can agree with your purpose, but if I don't agree with your personality and you're not looking to do better, you're going to peak where you're at. And that's the problem I have with with trying to define our manhood or the climax or the zenith of our manhood with leadership. I believe in the servant part, but the leadership part I think is predicated on God, not us. And so you can prepare as many people as you want to be a leader. If God even ordained them to be a leader, they won't be. And if they do become a leader, they'll be the most crappiest leader you ever prepared because they weren't called to be leadership in the first place. And I think that's what we're suffering from today. But aside from that, I'm gonna again back to my original point. I'm in love with every man's purpose. You'll never have my problem with that. That means you never have to watch your back. That's basically what it means. You don't have to ask for loyalty because I'm like, man, listen, you got more than my, you got better than my loyalty. If you got my love, it comes standard with my loyalty. But again, to be able to deal with that and not only that, to ask for it and expect it, then you need to expect everything that comes along with that. And know the fact that I'm learning from you because I can't learn from you if I don't challenge you. And anybody that's not challenged you ain't learning from you anyway. And I think we sometimes kind of confuse what that really is when it comes to probably the leadership part, not the servant part, but the servant leadership part. And I think we put the two together just to sound. I'm not saying you guys are doing it, but I think we do put the two together to try to justify what we're not doing and what we're not doing. And so that's why, and back to your point with the BS, Tini, that's the BS I've been dealing with for the last 20 years.
I think that servant, the servant leadership, it's the purpose. I think in servant leadership is your purpose is in helping others to achieve. I think when we talk about servant leadership, I think it speaks, I think it aligns with what you say. I think that, I don't think there's a deep philosophical divide in what you're saying. Maybe how you're going about it might be different than how, I mean, of course, obviously you are different than me and I'm different than Ron. But, in servant leadership, it's grounded in the purpose being to help others. Now, that by no means is to be misconstrued or thought to be subservient. Okay. Yeah, I don't want, and I talked about being passive aggressive. And I guess that's a good term for me, because first and foremost, I want to listen, I want to hear, I want to understand. I don't believe in imposing my will, but you can rest assured, I believe in letting the person know. I think Ron's been around me long enough to know where we stand on that. But by no means is it a thing where you just kind of sit back and let things just go as they are. No, it's grounded in purpose, and that purpose is in the guidance to others to help them achieve their purpose. And there's nothing passive. There's nothing passive about that part of it. So don't, and it's a philosophy that has breadth and depth. I would love to engage, and I'm sure we're going to have a chance to engage on this at some point.
You would love to engage on what? I mean, you engage on it now.
No, I knew you gonna say that.
We don't gotta listen. Ain't nothing gotta be held to another time.
No. I think that I think the study of servant leadership and its underpinnings, the logic and methodology behind it. That's a bit much for this forum. I think there's a lot that drives it. Particularly in the society we live in. Now, you're an educated man, Brother Lightborn. You speak with diplomacy. You speak with conviction. You speak with experience. You speak with intelligence. When you put all those things together, um, it makes for a formidable, uh, you know, without question, whether you want to accept the term leader or not, you know, you know, you know what, when it comes to defining people and, who are leaders and who are servants, or servant lead, whatever, you don't get to decide because people are following you. People are, we don't vote, we don't have to vote on it. You are who you are, and you have a tremendous captive audience. Okay, uh, you're helping people right now in defining their purpose. You're engaged in servant leadership. It's not something you have to adopt and put on your moniker. I think, we all. You don't turn people away from you. You embrace. That's part of what leadership is.
You know what? I'm sorry. Does somebody else need to go?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What popped into my head during these uh, conversations? Um, what really impresses me coming from another man, or even a human being for that matter, is integrity. If you carry yourself with a certain amount of integrity, and it governs your core values, that no man is perfect, but what integrity means to me from my perspective is that not only will you own up to your successes, but you will also hold yourself accountable for any mistakes. And what really disappoints me in men that I've encountered over the years is that men who will put on this mask that they have integrity, but the minute you are peering into that person's life and they think you're not looking, and you see them sell their integrity for whatever reason, you really end up being on the bottom rung. From my perspective, I cannot conduct myself accordingly with you if you are trying to fake integrity, and ultimately I find out that it's just all a facade. But if you have it, you've lived it, man, that's a man I can look up to. That's a man who I would be willing, even at this age, just to sit under your feet and be tutored in how you're able to manage keeping your integrity intact. You got mad respect from Ed Tenney's perspective if you are a man of integrity. And I think that's something that maybe we should discuss. I think at least in the Black community, I find that Black men pretty much, in all generational aspects, seem to just not hold true to the integrity standards that should be expected of any man or human being.
Ed, you say that, when as you were speaking, I thought about oh my God, what's the boy's name? He's a rapper. Well, he an entertainer. I'm not gonna call him a rapper because rapper is kind of David Banner is his name. And I remember one time sitting with him and a colleague of mine who was a real good friend of his, a therapist, Andrew and Andre, at a conference, and we had this conversation. I just remember listening to him talk in our conversation we was having. And later on, recently I've seen him say that he wouldn't do business with a man who cheated on his wife, right? And when I heard that was a standard that became that if he would do that to the person that he made a partnership with, right? What will he do to me that he's supposed to be being in partnership with? It's not like, oh, you're gonna do me better than you doing her. And so when I heard you thinking about our what our standards, our ethics, our morals, what that becomes, that is a very strong thing that when we think about being men, manhood, and what that is sometimes people will kind of brush that to the side and be like, this, I got to do what I got to do as a man. And some of these things are, heard people put it in context that, hey, that's part of being the man, right? That's part of the man that I am. And I'm going to do those kind of things, not being self-righteous or anything, but I think that circumstances only show you when people show you who they are, and what they do is that just you can't be mad if the deal goes away and then he gets away with half of the money and leave you holding the bag, because you already had some premonition of those things in relation of not what he did to his wife, but how he handled that relationship. It's about the relationship. Like, what kind of, as a man in a relationship, am I having integrity in the relationship that I'm having in? Oh, I don't have selective integrity, right? With this person, I'm going to be have integrity, and then with the other person, I can do whatever I want. I can be unethical or unmoral or even backstabbing as I want to be, because it's a different person. And I think our actions sometimes, we have to think about it, our actions are habitual. So if we're doing something, we continue to do it, and we're used to continuing to do that. Not to say that people can't change and they can make, because very often people make a hard stop and say, hey, I need to do a factory reset on myself.
Now, I respectfully disagree with David Banner, because maybe he's not strong enough to handle that situation. But he should define that, and he should say that. But it's what he didn't say. You understand? I'm like, it's because it sounds like a very good soundbite. I can get all the applause I want because I can be an applaud or a clout chaser. So I see all the right things that's going to get all the right responses. But the responsibility of it, see the response versus the responsibility of it. I'm like, I don't have a right to leave nobody in their mess if I'm better. Now, it took a black woman to prove that to us in history, be it Harriet Tubman. She could have stayed because that was Frederick Douglass. You understand? Yeah, that's that Frederick Douglass. I'm good. You understand? So if they could have came with you if they really wanted to be free. But she said, you know what? Let's give them another chance. Let's go back. See, so if it's going to be a real problem with black integrity, right? It's not just the going back, it's the giving back. And I don't think you're capable of one if you're not capable of the other. And so when we get to the understanding of, okay, I'm here now, you understand? But that brother who may be cheating on his wife, I'm like, well, what is your life good for anyway? Because we take it, what he did was took the brother who was cheating on his wife and made his injustice greater than his own integrity or his ability not to cheat on his wife. And so that's what I feel like. I think, and particularly being a Christian and being a godly man, that's what I run into that problem all the time. I run into a problem where it seems like being a man of faith or being a man of God, our faith has made us fragile, right? And so all of a sudden, the Bible says we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, right? And then we can find a list of things we can't do. We can't go. We can't be with this person. We can't go with that person. You got to watch a circle of friends. I'm like, well, damn, you were more risque before you were saved. You got more power being saved than you did when you wasn't. And all of a sudden, now we live in powerless. And it's like we're more in danger of the world changing us as godly people than we are than we are in changing the world. As a Christian, I believe this way. I'm like, I'm not in danger of no environment changing me. That environment is in danger of me changing it. That's just how I live. And so when we start to live like that, not just as godly men, but particularly as men, like, hold on, because that's just how we're built. We're built to change environments. Sometimes I think we succumb to psychology, be it social media or whatever, to define or redefine what we think good should look like. And then we retreat from the responsibility and the accountability of doing good because we think our good is in danger. And so we leave bad, and we just retreat with our good. And that's not the historical or even biblical or spiritual the way to do things, not responsibly. And so I put a lot of accountability to where we are, to why we should go back. We're here for this reason. We were given so much. So I'm like, if you were given that much, to whom much is given, much is required, then you have a responsibility and accountability to go back to see who's ready. Because he's cheating with somebody else, but that other people are seeing him cheat. The problem is they're not seeing a good man or a good husband. And what you did was you abandoned him and everybody that's following that. You understand what I'm saying? You abandoned him and that community that's full of cheaters. And you were the only, you understand, person with integrity that could have changed that environment. And you chose to abandon the process because you felt like, you understand, the response you could get for saying what you said is more important than the responsibility that you have to do what you need to do. And that's what I'm like, that always pisses me off. I'm like, no, good cannot make you a bad person. You cannot tell me you got more fear, you understand, from faith than you did from not having faith. I can't accept that. And so that's what makes the room kind of like very tense when I go in these circles and they're ready to have a really nice, feel good, come to Jesus conversation and just don't turn it go.
And it's like, well, let me say that is so solution oriented how you describe that isomorphic dynamic of if I see a brother doing something, maybe I should lean in more and let what I'm doing rub off on him. And guess what? I have seen that happen numerous times. I think people believe it operates in the opposite. But I think what you were pointing out is that it can't operate unless you was already vulnerable for it to happen, right? If you already say, I'm this man, this is what I stand on, and guess what? I'm going to make other men stand on the same thing I'm standing on. Not through my rejection, but through my embrace. And that's probably more powerful because clearly, look, I know people who have wives and their wives say, you can go with that man, but you can't go with that man. Right? You go to him, but you can't go with him. And it's because of the embrace of how that man being in their husband's life, the wife has visioned that there's a different, first off, this person is a positive influence. Or maybe not even be a positive influence. Listen, I'm going to give you one better. They may be pushing the husband to move to his full capabilities because that person might be looking up to him. Not that he's following the person, right? So here I am, and you look at the capacity. I'm looking up to this person, and that's making them change because now they have to set a standard for me. They don't want to. They want me to be better, and it's making them better. See that's the ego part that's getting out of this kind of thing. Well, I'm fixing people. They need to do what no, it doesn't work. I mean, organic works. but it's also genuine, right? It's not like, oh, you got to fix my husband. But how does somebody fix your husband? They can't fix him. They can't fix him. He what they can do is they can love him. And I say this very much. They can love him, and then that love rubs off on them to have to love back. This is what we don't do with men. And I realize that society doesn't do certain things with men. We do the opposite to men than what we want them to do. We don't. We want them to give, right? We want them to give. We believe that getting them to give is to take. So we need to take because we want them to give. Not realizing what makes them want to give more easily is getting. You know, when they feel, I almost, let me be clear. Let me speak for me. I know that I am a man who operates like that. What you try to make me do, probably gonna make me do the opposite. But if you show me love, I can't do anything but to give love back, because that's how I'm operating. If you say, "Oh, spend time with me," guess what? I might not have no time, but I gotta find time because you spend the time with me, and I'm gonna make the time to spend the time. These kind of things are happening, and that happens cross border on everything, not just in the partnership with a woman, but also with our children, with our family members, with our and our job and how we operate in our work ethics. All that comes into that play of. But I think sometimes people got men twisted. They wanna make one thing make another thing, like, cause and effect. And sometimes the cause and effect is just the cause can be the cause. You don't have to wait for no effect.
We're flawed. All of us are flawed individuals. We have our flaws. Some deeper than others, and some, are seen outwardly, and some we just don't know about. But I want to go to the comment that you made about, how you look at, how, and I'm gonna paraphrase. Basically, you were saying, I think, that Black men have fallen short. They don't live up to this integrity litmus test. What I will offer to that is, first, you got to understand how close you are to that demographic. Okay, we are all very close to that demographic. So we are up close. We see it every day. That's our world. We have a tendency to be emotional. So we, and so often in our community, we wear our feelings on our shirt sleeve, and we're very close to that. And we see that. Whereas when you look at other demographics, we are distanced from them. They express themselves covert. So much of what is done in those other demographics is covert, and you don't. So between their different modes of expression and how they do things in other demographics, and us being so distanced from that, well, on the surface, they look better than we do. And I won't subscribe to that. I think we all have our flaws. I think everyone deserves second chances. And if we're going to abandon people for mistakes they made, then, if you're going to just cast every person out of the community who has made a mistake, we'll be in a community of none, not even one. So we have to be careful, because, like I said, we've had a different level of exposure, and particularly when you look at, Ron talked about cause and effect. Who knows, what motivates a person in their desperate moments? How did they arrive at that point? We may say, oh, that's wrong what this person is doing, but we don't, we haven't done a deep dive, or, we don't understand what that person's collective experience is. We got to meet that person where they are, and try and, do all that we can to help bring them to a better place. There's baby steps, people don't make drastic change. You don't suddenly wake up one day and you have changed from Beelzebub to Jesus Christ. It don't happen that way, man. It's baby steps, man. It's about influences, it's environment, people you spend your time with, and I won't ever abandon, in those situations because and when you talk about who I am as a man, my background is education, 35 years as an educator, working in our communities, as a teacher, assistant principal, and so I'm shaped by that. I don't care what a kid has done. Okay, when I see them again, they're in my eyesight, they're no different than any other kid that has done all the right things. I don't give up on people. And I don't take no bull now. I draw a hard line. Ain't nobody's punching bag. Ain't nobody's, and I ain't gonna say the word. You can rest assured of that. I don't play the radio. I'm a disciplinarian. Okay, I'm a teacher. Okay, I am a administrator, and I don't play about that stuff. But I believe in I believe in diplomacy, and I also believe in giving folks. You got to give folks a chance, especially our people, who we've been knocked down so much, man.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking about that as well. That a black man's integrity is plagued with injuries, and so you can't expect. I think it's a miracle if you take a person that, and particularly a group of people, and a group of men who've been ripped and are torn apart from their families historically, and dare to even compare them to somebody that didn't go through 10% of those atrocities. And so I think I'm like, you can never compare. And I'm like, I'm always totally against it. I'm like, you can never compare a black man in this country to any other man in this country. We live with our, and we would know that psychologically and therapeutically this is not healthy, but we live with our abusers. We cohabitate, you understand, with our abusers. And as a matter of fact, and in some cases, here's the truth. We love our abusers. And so if we can manage to love our abusers so much so that when we fought back with love and peace. Now, if that's not integrity, I don't know what the hell is. And so I think it's really not even so much change the narrative, because you can't change a narrative you don't own. You got to first own the narrative to change it. And once you own it, then you change it, and then you make people understand. I think every moment is, I'm growing from every moment. I'm learning how to do more advocating than arguing. I think I just like doing the arguing part. But I love to do. I'm starting to. I'm touring. I'm like, you need to do more advocating than arguing, because you're looking for somebody, one or the other to win. If you do more advocating, then both of y'all will win. But if you're arguing, only one of y'all can win. And so I'm learning the value of advocating versus arguing. And then I had to start to get those backstories and restructure things a different way. That's true. I don't have to restructure the truth, because the truth is always the truth. It just suffer from bad narrators. And so once I start to understand what the truth is and start to own what our truth is, then I can give it to somebody who may not necessarily understand it. And so you can't talk about, and we on the heels right now, we're very big on victimization and who's victims and who are not. But I'm like, at some point in history, everybody's a victim. You understand? I mean, I went to a friend of mine, and remember I told you last week about we had a CEO. So she just had so much confidence in me. I didn't see it, but she just did. So she'll put me in front of these people, like these just random leaders. Like, and I'm like, she's like, Lionel, follow me to was Flomo at the time, Flomo Memorial. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna meet you out there. She said, I want you to talk to this guy. I said, all right, no problem. Then at that particular time, he was the dean of African American Studies or something like that. Me and that guy, after the conversation, me and that guy had a really good relationship after the fact. But we sat down and we had a consensus. So we started talking, and I disagreed with certain things because I thought he was talking about what he was talking about, some things that were scientifically true, but he wasn't addressing the total truth of it. You understand? He was very selective, and it was more beneficial to what he was trying to project and his particular status of study. But I had to call him one. I'm like, listen, man, yes, I'm a black man. I value that. I know that top to bottom. I'm like, but it's pros and cons that comes along with being, because he was big on being the first. So scientifically, we are the first, right? That's the pro. Now you got to deal with the con of it. I'm like, you understand that in order for you to be the first anything, if you're going to be the first good, you got to also be the first bad. You understand? And so when we talked about that, and I'm like, so we're going to talk about, like we were talking about slavery. I said, now we're going to talk about slavery in its totality, or where you want to start at? And he goes, I'm like, well, what do you mean? I say, well, you understand, if you're just going to talk from the shores of Africa to the shores of America, then your point is valid. But if we're going to talk beyond the shores of Africa, before you get to the shores of Africa, which means within the inland of Africa to the shores of Africa, then we have another conversation we got to talk about. And so with that, I mean, we started hitting so many different points, because at the end of the day, that conversation for me, you understand, was not only just truth, but growth. And I didn't want to, and years later, God is very, very like sound in what he do. Because that conversation me and that young man had, well, he was older than me, but me and him had at that particular time, that professor, I get to my church and they did a Black History moment. And I think it was, what's the guy named Gates? The one that does the, yeah, Gates. And so Gates did he went to Africa. He went to,
Louis Henry Gates.
Right. So he went to Africa and he did this. He spoke to one of the historians, a really sound guy. And so here we are, African American historian talking to an African historian from West Africa, because that's seemingly where most of the slaves trade came from. And he told, and you know what that guy advice to him was, which validated what I told a guy, a couple years ago. He said, African Americans need to stop He said, African Americans need to stop romanticizing slavery. His words exactly. And I was saying, that's the conversation I was having 10 years ago with this guy. And so I'm like, if we're going to get to the truth, you got to get to the total truth. You just can't get to the selective truth you want to get to. And so yes, we were the first. I mean, the Bible says we were the first. We were the first civilization. I mean, I guess in the Bible, if you study it. Ham, you talk about Ham and Nimrod and all the rest of them. I'm like, of course, it's obvious right there. We were the first. But you got to understand, to be the first good, you got to be the first bad. And so if you're not going to be accountable to being both, then what are we talking about? And so when we get back to the integrity part, that's what integrity is. You got to be willing to be the good with the bad. That's integrity. And so and when you start to really think like that, I'm going to be honest with you, your groups are going to thin out. Because nobody is going to, when you finish, you see how we're going to talk here, I can attest to every guy on here. When we finish having this conversation, we'll walk away and we'll still be thinking about it and having it. That's the difference between everybody on this think tank and everybody else. The conversation don't stop when we stop having it. Conversation continues in your head because you was intentionally, you live it. And so you're looking for something that's real. You're looking for real solutions. You're looking for real healing. And so you can become real help. But most people are not going to be that bought into what's saying. People just like to have the conversation for now, and then they want to move on to something else. But if you're not, when you're looking for total change and they become a total person, it's going to be totally different for you. And I think that's probably the crises that most of us, if not all the men on here, is going to basically face, and probably till the day we die. But thank God, God was able to throw some people our way that love us.
So I just want to say to you guys, I mean, this first I just want to say thank you for being so open tonight and really sharing. And I really just want to highlight what Lightborn said, is that this is not just a show we're having just for content right now, right? This is true conversation that is not just for people to, for us to come on here. These are conversations that if we wasn't even on here and we would got together, we would still be having, still trying to initiate, and we continue to initiate because is important to, as I like to say, compete against the noise. You know, there's something right now being played on another channel on Facebook right now, arbitrary to what we're talking about, contradictory to what we're talking about. You know, not taking on own accountability of self, saying it's somebody else's fault that why I don't do what I do and how I do what I do. You know, and in many instances is not even pointing. If they point the finger, they're not even pointing the finger at the right person, right? So there is some finger pointing that can be done, but I think in that finger pointed at the right person. But I think Brother Gaines said it is where we at. So we point to whoever's closer to us. We comfortable with pointing the finger to the person right next to it, not realizing that we in the same pot. We need to point to the person that's outside the pot with the fire and putting the water and the large season salt on top of our head. I can't continue to bump you. We in the same pot. Like I can't blame you for us being in the pot because you in the pot with me. You know, we need to worry about how we can maybe slip up out of this pot. And sometimes it takes for us to talk and come up with some ideas like we do at the think tank. And the next thing you know, we done accidentally pushed the pot over off the stove, and we crawling away. We out of there, you know. So that I'll say that. We had some really good people listening in the background. I just want to say good night to Tylan. He was out here. And I know that on our page, you know, supporting the Fatherhood Think Tank YouTube page, Rohan is there watching. You know, that's pro mobile services. And so I just want to send a shout out to those guys and their messages they wrote for the night. Again, I want to definitely, you know, remember our original true sponsors, Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi. Chartered in 1954, has been here since the beginning of this. It actually was a partnership between them and the agency was working at the time to put this on. And I always want to spot them. And then I also want to, you know, again, our keynote member sponsor, JAG Attorney at Law, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. JAG Attorney at Law, Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. You can reach him at J. Gaspar at jag1law.com or pick up your phone and hit a 305-827-8087. Or if you want to know exactly, go to the website. Website is www.jag1law.com. That's for Johnny Gaspar Esquire, Attorney at Law. I'm hoping that we're going to get some other sponsorship paperwork, Brother Gaines, from soon from some other, you know, so I'll wait for you to put that together, put something together so that can be on here as well as one of ours, so we can start advertising that as much as possible, get that name out here on the think tank. With that being said, gentlemen, thank you again. I want to thank all people who are listening. Please, if you have not done so, go to the YouTube page, like, share, subscribe, so you can be informed and get dinged when we're coming on Tuesday night, 7:00. You can just remember it. If you're on Facebook, I know for a lot of people, 90 minutes is a long time to watch something. They only want to watch something for 90 seconds, not 90 minutes. But the reality is sometimes you have to watch things for 90 minutes to really suck in and get a full. And let me say this to all you brothers here. I don't know how many of you guys, Amanda Shields is her name. She was on this show on YouTube called this Circled or Huddle or something with, and she was debating 20 conservatives or something. If you get an opportunity, you got some free time, check that out. I love to hear what you think about it. what you think about the conversation, the debate she had with them. But I'll say this: I have always had an opinion about her and had my feelings about her, right? But when I watched her last night, what really came to me is that she loves Black people, right? And and we might, and I keep saying this about Black people not being monolithic. Well, you may not like the way people operate, you may not like the way they present, you might not like the way, and I think we know this better here as a group of fathers who come from all different walks of life, all different ways to present. You may not like it, but you are connected to that person by the thing you're connected by. And her love of Black people and love of Blackness is, I don't care what it is you can say to me about her. I'm connected to her and I'm be connected. I might not like things she say. I might not even, disagree, but I'm connected to her. Just like I'm connected here with you fathers here every week. And I'm connected to you because we are fathers and because we have that in common. With that being said, Father, repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
Fathers, I say I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am.
I
I
am
am
a
a
man
man
of
of
respect.
respect.
Fathers, I say that I am
I am.
because you are,
You are.
because we are
We are
championship
champions.
fathers. I just want to say that we hold our children on our arms, we hold our families on our back. But if people have listened to this chant is powerful. And if you don't think it is, it's almost like what's the thing called that you tell yourself? Manifestation,
Affirmations.
mantra. Yeah, affirmation. It's an
Right.
affirmation that without a doubt, I know any man, at least these three men here, have to deal with it every day, right? Because you can't say something religiously, right, every week and not it comes back. And this is the point I'm making. And it comes back to a point where you have to say, am I being respectful? Am I being honorable? Am I being respectful? And do I have courage? If I'm not, it's hard to out your mouth say it every week and get pumped and feel strong and not saying it. And I say, if people in the audience, say it with us if you're just listening when we do it. Say it with it and you'll see the powerful change that are making you and who you are as a father. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. See you here next week, Fatherhood Think Tank, where we will be spending the time talking about fathers' issues, talking about fathers' conversations, and coming up with some solutions that can help not just you individually, but can help all of us as a community. Good night.
Good night.